Sidelines with Rob Browne. Talk sporty to me.
All right, good morning and welcome to this beautiful, beautiful Monday. Beautiful Monday. Hey, okay, they lost. Okay. All right, but it is a beautiful Monday here that we have going on. College football, man. What a weekend. What a weekend that we just had. Weekend number 6. I tell you one thing, there's some obvious coaching malpractice going on. I think a lot of people are wondering what is going on in college football. I think we called it Separation Saturday, and it was. And I think we started to see a lot of teams pull away. And now you're beginning to know that there's just some bad teams out there. There's not a great team, I don't think, in college football. I don't think that there's a dominant team that I've seen anywhere. Uh, Alabama, well, obviously without Bryce Young, we know they're a different team. Jalen Milroe had 2 fumbles and interception in the first half alone. Alabama, it went down to the last play. And what do we draw from that, folks? Does that mean anything? The fact that Alabama had to go to the wire to play somebody? I don't think so. I think it's just the nature of college football, but it also, to me, is a sign that we don't have any dominant teams in college football, not just in the SEC, but across the country. Georgia, well, they were dominant against Auburn. What does that say? I think if you're an Auburn fan, I asked this question to several group texts I'm on. I know, are you mad as hell this morning after a 42-10 beat down between the hedges? Didn't get a lot of responses. I'll tell you what you better be concerned if you're Auburn officials is apathy, because apathy will kill your program quicker than any other thing. I mean, when people just don't get upset, it means they don't care, and that's a problem. Like I've said, athletic departments across the country need to endear themselves to the fans. Who owns college football? It's the fans. Jimmy Hodge is on with us up in Knoxville. Gordon Ford in Memphis. Second segment, we're going to have Jimmy Hyams from Knoxville, longtime sports writer for the Knoxville News Sentinel. Does a daily sports radio show on the Sports Animal. Knows Tennessee and SEC and college football like very few people. Top of the second hour, go over to Atlanta, check in with Tommy Kane on our ACC report, talk about what's happening over there in the Atlantic Coast Conference. And in the fourth segment, Ben Troupe will check in from over in Savannah, ESPN Coastal, Florida Gator All-American, 5 years in the NFL. Has a great book out there. Find it on Amazon, Uncommon, Unfinished. We'll talk about college football for the next 2 hours as we do every Monday through Saturday. Follow us on Twitter at Sidelines_live. Sign up on our Patreon page. Love to have your support. And I got to tell you, folks, happy Columbus Day. Happy Columbus Day. A lot of you are off today. Banks are closed. But happy Columbus Day as we celebrate this great day here in the greatest country. We love America. God bless America. Jimmy, wow, I sent you a picture of coaching candidates, for the Auburn job, if and when it comes open. And you showed me the guy on the left with the white thing on his head was, he the guy with the ball cap, whatever you want to call that thing. He looks urban. Okay. Yeah. That was the picture from Animal House. Lonnie, Jugdish, Clayton, Muhammad. We've all met. Sure. They're good. You'll have lots to talk about. Gordon is on with us. But Jimmy, let's talk about the past weekend. Man, I know you had the man cave, or you were at your mom's in Knoxville, but you saw a lot of football. What was the takeaway? Because I saw some scary stuff. No, there's not. And Gordon, flipping over, last year we remember A&M is at home. Mississippi State travels out to College Station last year, beats them soundly, and then a week later, A&M, Zach Calzada has the game of his life, and they win. Same thing happened, but the difference is this year. I got to say, Jimmy, the big caveat: no Bryce Young. Alabama, completely different team. That's what it is. But you're right. Your observation, your takeaway, multiple observations are, I believe, spot on. Gordon Ford, Homer, jump in here. Correct. Gordon, you look around the league and you talk about those top two teams, the top four teams. And then you've got way out there, right behind them, Mississippi State, Arkansas. This was a tough weekend. Arkansas goes on the road to Starkville, no KJ Jefferson, just like Alabama at home without Bryce Young. Man, that's why you recruit so many players, because you lose your starter, different personality, aren't you? Yeah. 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 Jimmy, let me tell y'all that we're having some kind of technical issue this morning. We're going to send both of y'all a link. So just hang up, and you'll get a link from us here in just a few seconds, and then call back in through that, and we'll be good to go. But I'm gonna talk here for a second about this college football season. We mentioned, I thought in the preseason that after Alabama, it would be Arkansas in the SEC West would be the best team to challenge. But I didn't think it was like miles ahead. I thought Ole Miss's 4 was a minimum of 8 wins. I thought that Arkansas could win 8, maybe 9, but with no KJ Jefferson, they are a completely different team, and that's a problem. You've got and Malik Hornsby. just trying to get him on the field. Hey, we're going to put in, packages for you to play some wide receiver. We're going to do whatever to keep you on the field. You got to be careful about that because you've got to have a quarterback as a backup who's getting the reps in practice every day. If you're not getting those reps every day, when you get called in, and a guy like KJ Jefferson, how many times have we heard Dudley Dawson and different people that follow the Razorbacks for us talk about the Arkansas coaches repeatedly saying, hey, quit running the ball so much. You're putting yourself out there. The team's got to have you. We need you. We desperately need you. And it's hurt. A&M, Haynes King, he played well enough the other night. Max Johnson had broken his hand after replacing Haynes King. I don't know how much good quarterback play that there is in the league. I really don't. I think that schools what's happening is got a decent backup quarterback and your starter stays healthy. Well, that decent backup quarterback will probably leave you and enter the portal. And you're seeing right now, Jalen Milroe came in. I think he went through spring practice at Alabama. And he is he's really fast, like Gordon said, but he's not there yet. And that's a danger. That's a danger that we have. Gordon, you there? Yeah, Gordon. Yeah, Gordon's here. Okay. Well, you've got Gordon. Go ahead and hang up, and we're going to send links so you can get back on because we've had a technical snafu here. So go ahead and Gordon, go ahead and hang up, and we're going to send you a link, and then call back on that. Okay. Okay. So I'm looking here at what is going on in college football, and I'm telling you, just as I see it, so many players are quick to go into the portal. You got guys that are shutting it down, as they say, which is just terrible. They would not be on scholarship. I would get them out of school immediately. Shutting it down after 4 games. And you've got a problem, get a real problem, and that is you don't have any quality backup. But A&M, they do have 2 quarterbacks, Haynes King, Max Johnson, and they almost beat Alabama on the road. That was a hard-fought game. I'm not surprised in the least with what I'm seeing. I look at Tennessee, okay? Hendon Hooker. Joe Milton, I guess, is his backup. Hendon Hooker got banged up a little bit during the LSU game. Tennessee won 40-13 Saturday, but he came right in. Injuries are part of college football. It's a violent game. You're going to get beat up a lot, but man, you've got to have quality backup there. I mean, that's just how it is. And I look around at some of these other scores. Look at Ole Miss against Vanderbilt on the road. The bottom line is they go on the road and they dang near lose the game. It looks like it in the first half, and then they come in the second half and just blow Vanderbilt out. Put, I think, 55 points on the board. Ole Miss is I think they're a good football team. They can run the ball, and you're going to have games here where you struggle, okay, where you just, you're not feeling it. And that was their game. I don't know if it was a trap game. Vanderbilt's beaten Ole Miss a lot. Lane Kiffin, they just went to another gear in the second half. So looking around, and let's go back to Florida. We were thinking maybe this would be Anthony Richardson's breakout game for the Gators, and they win 24-17 over Missouri. Missouri has 100 yards more offense than the Gators and more time of possession. I don't know. Florida, this team, well, the Gators at home, they're going to have that breakout game. They played a full 60 up at Tennessee. They played really hard 2 weeks ago. They come, home against Missouri, and they struggle. I don't. And a lot of people are saying, well, Florida could get Georgia in Jacksonville later this season. And Georgia had struggled against Kent State. They struggled against Missouri on the road. Got away with a 26-22 win up there. But they looked good against Auburn. But what does that mean? I don't know what you can really draw from looking good against Auburn. I'm not sure. I haven't seen Auburn look the way they look now since 2012. But this team, the difference is this team hadn't quit. The players on the team are trying hard. The offensive game planning that Auburn puts out there is as bad as I think you'll ever see anywhere. And that's on the coaches and the players. You can't fault the players. They're trying hard. Georgia, they were just having fun out there the other day. And I think they could have scored a lot more if they'd have wanted to. I think they took it easy on Auburn. We'll talk more about this right after this break. Sidelines with you for the next hour and a half. All right, what is going on? Do you have Jimmy on there?
Red River Ford and Toyota, located in Wynne, Arkansas. If you're in the market for a new or used car, truck, or SUV, call, go online, or drop by and see them. Located 45 minutes from Memphis, go off the 4 City exit on I-40 and go north about 15 minutes on Highway 1. Easy to work with and still believe in customer service. If you live out of town, they will deliver your vehicle to you. RedRiverFordToyota.com. Just see what they can do.
Strengthen your seed zone this spring with quality tillage equipment from House Industries. Located in Cherry Valley, Arkansas, House Industries specializes in manufacturing superior equipment that will minimize your downtime and keep you working in the field. To ensure the highest quality control, all design, fabrication, and testing takes place in a 99,000 square foot manufacturing facility located right here in the heart of the Delta. Locate your nearest House equipment dealer online at houseindustriesinc.com.
House Industries, breaking ground.
Sidelines with Rob Browne. Talk sporty to me.
Here we go. All right, Rob Browne with you on this Monday, going into week 7, wrapping up week 6. And Gordon, let's talk, get your takeaway on that Ole Miss scare up in Nashville. I mean, look, I talked about this a minute ago. Teams are going to have games during the season, even during a national championship season, where they struggle to beat a team that is an inferior opponent, but and they get down by a couple of scores early, and then they come back and put 55 like Ole Miss did against Vanderbilt. Anything about that game that concerns you going forward for Ole Miss? Well, Jackson Dart, Luke Altmaier. Is there any debate about who the best quarterback is for Ole Miss? Yeah, and Jimmy, that's a concern I have. Like, you look at Alabama, and again, you made great points about Alabama's game against A&M. I didn't know, and you didn't know, Gordon didn't know that Bryce Young wasn't going to start Saturday. You go to Jalen Milroe from Katy, Texas. Now, he went through spring practice, I remember. Gordon's right. He is fast, big, fast, athletic kid. Nowhere near as much experience as Bryce Young. He's not a player. They got the win, but I think the problem is if you've got a decent backup quarterback with the portal and making it so easy to transfer out, they're gone in a New York second. Okay. All right, hey, Jimmy, we're gonna send you another link. Having some technical issues here, and so just if y'all would just drop off the line, and we're gonna send you the link. It should be there, and just come in through that on StreamYard. So we'll make this happen. But I'm so as a just watching football this year, and I'm seeing it, but it's mainly at the quarterback position. That's where we seem to have the biggest problems. And for college football fans, we love to watch our teams. And everybody always says, the best player on the team is the backup quarterback. Well, they're not sticking around. And I think that's a scary thought. Who in the SEC, like Georgia, there are fans, if Georgia struggles, where's Carson Beck? They've got some 4- and 5-star quarterbacks behind their starter, Stetson Bennett IV, who took them to a national championship last year. And that right there, that's quite an accomplishment. That's quite an accomplishment. And so, okay, so I'm thinking, well, what teams out there wouldn't want to have Stetson Bennett the fourth? He had a 70-yard touchdown run against Auburn, outran everybody on the field Saturday in that 42-10 Georgia victory over Auburn. And this is the guy. Be careful what you wish for, Georgia fans. I mean, you want this guy as your quarterback. And I would love to have him as a quarterback. This guy's a fighter. He refuses to ever give up. He's never quit. I'll say this. I don't know what is going on in college football that makes players think that just by transferring to another school, everything is automatically going to improve. And if you think that, you're foolish. But look at Florida, Anthony Richardson. Who's their option behind him? I mean, he was the guy last year when Emory Jones was struggling. And for whatever reason, I thought Emory Jones, I admired him for sticking it out and not transferring. But Dan Mullen just was trying to force Emory Jones on the Florida fans and on that team to be the starting quarterback when, it looked like Anthony Richardson, it looks like now, I mean, obviously he's a better quarterback. But Anthony Richardson is taking time to develop. It doesn't just happen immediately. Once you get 3 or 4 or 5 games out there, opposing coaches have a lot of tape on you, and they can see, hey, here's how we can attack this guy. Here's how we can scheme for him or whatever. And that's very, very important to have quality backup. And you look at running backs. Golly, if I'm Tank Bigsby, Jarquez Hunter at Auburn, where are you going to get some stats? I mean, you got to be thinking about stuff like this. If you're Auburn going, I hope they stick around. I mean, I hope Tank Bigsby wasn't talking to his teammates, Saturday, because I look at it, Georgia, they're getting everyone that they want. Auburn's got to get offensive linemen. Tank Bigsby just gets hit in the backfield the minute he gets the ball. The second that ball's in his hands, and Jarquez Hunter, same thing. But you know what? Those guys are fighting and giving everything they've got. Amari Dawson, you hope he stays. But that's where we are with college football right now, is you're going to be worrying. Well, you can't worry yourself about stuff that you can control it to an extent, but it's why week to week we're seeing so many swings in college football. This is, we're into the, going into week 7. I think you're going to start to see some measurable differences in quality of play. But I do think Georgia and Alabama are clearly the top 2 teams in the SEC. I think there are a lot of good teams behind them. I will say Ole Miss and Tennessee. And then you've got Mississippi State with that passing game and Zach Arnett's defense, and they've got a pretty good running game. What's scary about Mike Leach is he's a master, the PhD in the passing. You get a running game to go with that. That's just going to make the defense better. And they don't have to have a lockdown, shut them down defense at Mississippi State to win games. They got to play, well enough. Keep people under 25 points a game, because State's going to score a lot of points. And I think looking at the SEC, there's a long way to go. If you look at LSU, Jaden Daniels comes in from Arizona State. And this guy he's not a great quarterback. He had 100 yards total passing, LSU did, in that Auburn win, 5 in the second half. I don't think he was ready for the speed of the game that you see day in and day out, week in and week out in the SEC. And I felt like going into the Tennessee LSU game that a track meet favors Tennessee. LSU's not built to get in that kind of a fight. And I was right. I'm not always right and wrong plenty, but 40-13, Tennessee just dominated, jumped on top early, like we said. And again, the 11 a.m. kickoff, it's awful, especially at a place like LSU. Night games at LSU, late afternoon, night games, they're special. And I know that 11 a.m. spot is for TV, but it gives the opposing team the advantage because they're already out of their normal comfort zone, out of their routine, not sleeping in their beds. They're in hotels, they're on the road. Tennessee brought a lot of fans down there, and they celebrated a long time afterwards, smoking cigars, singing Rocky Top. I mean, it was a big, big deal. It was a lot of fun, and I'm looking here at I'm sure LSU fans. I saw some meme that said Tennessee is 5-0 EAUX. I mean, have fun while you can. I think Brian Kelly will build LSU up into what they've had a lot of. That's a top 10 program. I mean, in this millennium, 3 different coaches, Les Miles, Nick Saban, Ed Orgeron, have all won national championships at LSU. I'm not going to be shocked if LSU finishes with 6-7 wins. They've got to play Florida this weekend down in the Swamp. That ought to be a lot of fun. Look, you got to think about schools around this league. Texas A&M, I mean, now after the way they played Alabama, what do? Did they put everything they had into that Alabama game? I mean, do they keep fighting? I mean, there are a lot of games to be played in this college football season. And I am not going to be the least bit surprised if we see some upsets of teams in the top 5. You've got Georgia, Ohio State, Alabama, Michigan, Clemson, Southern Cal. Southern Cal is 6-0 in the first year under Lincoln Riley. I mean, who thought that? But look what happened. Lincoln Riley left Oklahoma to become the head coach at Southern Cal. He took a bunch of players with him to Southern Cal. Oklahoma is just absolutely a complete mess. We had Ken Capps on the show Saturday morning from the Texas State Fair out in Dallas, talking about what was going on in Texas was a 7-point favorite over Oklahoma. Oklahoma has lost in the last few weeks to Kansas State and TCU badly, but they get beat 49-0, and they have been dominating for a while. The Red River Classic, they're Oklahoma. Brent Venables was considered the 10 years he was at Clemson an elite defensive coach, and now he's out at Oklahoma where he'd been before, and I think in the last 3 games they've given up over 120 points, 130 points. I mean, that's as much as they give up almost in a season a lot of his years at Clemson. So, you better be careful, Oklahoma. You got a good coach. They got a good coach, but Lincoln Riley leaves. He takes a bunch of players with him. This is the world we live in with the portal. It's also why schools are firing coaches, 3, 4, 5 weeks into the season. But again, who are you going to hire that's currently coaching to come in and be your head coach? And then you got the December signing period, usually between December 15th and 20th. And that's where 80% or more of the Division I players, that's when they're going to sign. And you've got to wait and come back in February. Wait till February. Good luck, because you're how are you going to have a top class if you have to wait until February? And that's the danger. And I don't know if at the coaches convention in January, if there's going to be a concern from people about, hey, let's go out and get let's get rid of this December signing period. But we're going to keep an eye on that. Jimmy Hyams joins us right now from Knoxville. Again, longtime writer for the Knoxville News Sentinel, does a daily sports radio show on the Sports Animal. And Jimmy, we were watching that Tennessee game, and I felt like track meet favors Tennessee, not LSU. And if Tennessee, the visiting team, that 11 a.m. spot jumps on top early, they could have their way, out there with LSU. And that's what happened. And I think there's a Rocky Top down in Baton Rouge smoking cigars. And LSU has long memories. Auburn did that in 99 with Tommy Tuberville and did win again down there till 2021. But this is a good Tennessee team. I think the defense is they only gave up 13 points, but they're just a good team that I think is starting to believe more and more every week that they can be even better than what they're doing up to this point.
Yeah, I thought it was the most complete performance that Tennessee has had under Josh Heupel. I really did. From the offense, which not only gained over 500 yards, but they also ran for over 250 yards. The defense had 5 sacks, had 9 tackles for loss. They did a tremendous job. They only gave up the 13 points. LSU got in the end zone twice, but the last touchdown was sort of a garbage touchdown. I was just really impressed with what Tennessee did overall. And not only that, you had the special teams. They recovered the opening kickoff. They had a 58-yard punt return. They had a punt that was down at about the 4-yard line. They had 4 field goals that they made. It was just complete performance. If I were to ding them a little bit, it would be the 12 penalties. You got to avoid that. You don't want to have 12 penalties playing against Alabama. And they gave up too many 3rd and 10-plus conversions. There were 3 times LSU converted on 3rd and 10 or more. But other than that, I just thought it was a great performance by Tennessee.
Jimmy, when I look at Tennessee, from what I'm seeing, you talk about the 12 penalties. Is that I don't have the stats for every game up to this point, but that's a lot. Alabama, they had 15 in their game on the road against Texas, able to pull out a win. But in this case, Tennessee was playing a better team and absolutely dominated. What's your takeaway? I mean, you got to be careful about making comparisons, but Tennessee, Hendon Hooker, and by the way, what's the status on? I know we got banged up a little bit. I think it was toward the end of the first half, but he should be ready to go Saturday, shouldn't he?
He should be, but Tennessee does not divulge anything regarding injuries. So, it's like, and they're like a lot of colleges. They're not going. I mean, Nick Saban's talking about Bryce Young might play. They're waiting on the doctor's report, and he didn't even throw a pass during warm-up. So, give me a break. So these coaches try to mislead people all the time, including their opponent. So we won't find out for sure about Hooker. I'll try to dig into that as we get closer to the game. It doesn't do me a lot of good to dig into it now.
Yeah.
But on Thursday or Friday, I try to check and find out what the real injury report situation is. Look, there was no way Cedric Tillman was playing against LSU. We knew that all week, but Tennessee kept dangling that carrot out there to keep LSU off balance.
Well, and you think about this with Tennessee, 40 points on the road. And I don't know where this ranks, but I definitely think it's the most complete game they've played under Josh Heupel. And remember last year, November 6th, Tennessee goes up to Lexington, KY, to play the Wildcats at night and wins 48-45 with 14 minutes and 47 seconds, I believe, time of possession. And this time they go on the road, they jump on top early, and they really just don't let up. That I think what I'm seeing with Tennessee is that there's without Cedric Tillman, I think other guys, there's a sense of urgency to step up. You want him back, but I think Tennessee needs, and I'm sure they're saying this, guys, look, we got to go with whoever's ready, correct?
Yeah, they do. Now what's happened is Brew McCoy has stepped up. He actually has the second most receiving yards for a Tennessee player against LSU ever. Only Kelly Washington had more. Jalen Hyatt has stepped up. He had 2 touchdown receptions against LSU. What has surprised me, though, a little bit, Rob, I thought that Tennessee would have to have a third receiver step up. Well, they really haven't had it. Every now and then, a Ramel Keaton or somebody else makes a play, but not consistently. Now, do I think Tennessee has a much better chance to beat Alabama with Cedric Tillman? Absolutely. Will he play? We'll find out later in the week. He might be able to based on the surgery that he had that's expected to expedite his recovery. But I've been really impressed with Tennessee not having Tillman, yet getting well over 500 yards against Florida, over 500 yards against LSU. And it hardly looks like the offense has missed a beat.
Yeah. We were talking about this Friday. Tennessee ranked 95th in defense going into the LSU game, number one offense. And that's when it started probably 12 years ago, maybe longer, where you've got teams that they're defensively, when Auburn won the national championship in 2010, that was one of their fourth or fifth worst defense in school history, but probably the best offense in school history, and at least in the modern era of college football. Tennessee's defense is better. I mean, they can get after the quarterback. This is, I think people are, and I have so many Tennessee friends and that are fans of the Vols for life, like my wife. And it's like after Phil Fulmer left, you've had so much kind of wandering in the wilderness. You had some success, but not what Tennessee had been doing in the 16 years prior to that. And you look at the Alabama series before Nick Saban got there, Tennessee leads it. I think had won 10, lost 4, and tied 1, the 93 game in the rain in Birmingham at Legion Field. And since then, 0-15. We're going up, Audrey and I are going up to Knoxville this weekend for the game to be with Mark Ham, and going to be up there and hope to get to see you before the game. You'll probably be doing a show, I'm sure, out there, but it's going to be an incredible atmosphere. I mean, and I said before the season, I asked you this, Tennessee has Florida, Alabama, and Georgia. I was like, they got to win at least one of them. And I said, I think they can win 2 of those 3. And that's a big ask. But how big is this game? And are you concerned, just from your position, that Tennessee, it can become too big on a Wednesday or Thursday, and you're just flat on Saturday? That's the thing you got to be scared of if you're a coach, I bet.
Okay, number one, I didn't think Tennessee could beat Alabama or Georgia going in. I thought they beat Florida. So I didn't think they could win 2 of those 3. I thought they would win 1 of those 3. That was before the year. I've changed my tune on that. Am I concerned that Tennessee might get too hyped up during the week before the game? No. Now, they have not been in a huge number of big games. Florida was a big game. But the reason I say that is that I think Josh Heupel keeps this team level-headed. Hendon Hooker keeps this team level-headed. I don't think they'll get all juiced up, and yet they know it's Alabama. They know there's a lot at stake. They know this is a big game, but I don't think it'll overwhelm them. And I think the fact that Josh Heupel was not only a great college quarterback, he played in a lot of big games at Oklahoma. I think that has helped him maintain the proper demeanor going into a big game like this. So I don't think Tennessee will leave it on the field on Wednesday or Thursday. I think they will be primed and ready to go whenever they kick it off Saturday at 3:30. So I don't think that'll be an issue for this team. Yeah,
and I that was me. I was thinking before the season that they could win 2 of those 3. I guess it's optimistic and living with a Vol, but Mark Ham, our friend up there, cousin Mark, he's got one son who's at Tennessee. He's working in the department this year as a junior and working with the coaches. And he's got a daughter that's a freshman at Georgia, and he's got this big bet with his kids that Tennessee goes down there and wins between the hedges. So this is going to be a lot of fun. But either way, I'm an Auburn grad, but Tennessee being this is what college football thrives on. Up on the hill, 3rd Saturday in October. It's just the way it's supposed to be in the books. I think it's going to be another 250,000 people in town for the game. It's going to be absolute bedlam up there. And I'm with you. Josh Heupel, Midwestern people are more practical. They got a lot of good common sense. This guy's from South Dakota, Josh Heupel, runner-up for the Heisman. I think this is the kind of moment that he's coached his entire career for. Jimmy, that's just my take.
No, I think you're right. And he was probably not going to get an opportunity to coach a game of this magnitude at Central Florida. Although he did, his first team was undefeated. But now you're at Tennessee. You're at a rivalry game. You got ESPN's Game Day coming here. You're on CBS. SEC Nation is here. There is not a bigger game in the country than Tennessee and Alabama this week. Now, and Tennessee's finally lived up to its end of the bargain. A lot of times this wasn't a huge game because Alabama was so much better than Tennessee. That's not the case now. And Tennessee's moved up to number 6 in the AP poll. I will say this. I still have concerns about Tennessee's secondary.
Yeah.
They give up too many big plays. There are too many open receivers. They were better against LSU than they were against Florida. Now, the key is if Alabama doesn't play Bryce Young, and by the way, I think he'll play, but if they're playing Milroe, I don't know that Alabama can exploit Tennessee's secondary like they would with Bryce Young. I think that would be a huge advantage for Tennessee.
Yeah, great observations. And again, it's just, Heupel came to Tennessee for this very reason, and they did it against Florida. Incredible atmosphere. They certainly can do it again. Easier said than done, but you're right. Bryce Young, they're a different team without him. Jimmy Hodge jumping here with us and talking with Jimmy Hyams up in Knoxville about this big number 3 Alabama coming to the Hill against number 6, the Big Orange.
Yeah, Jimmy, I think you really made a good point about Tennessee secondary because LSU was the first team or SEC opponent with a quarterback who, in my mind, had no ability to take advantage of the vulnerability with Tennessee's secondary that you've mentioned, especially the corners. And because of that fact, I think Tennessee's defensive scheme was put together in very efficient fashion that they could really cheat guys to the line of scrimmage and play regular man coverage on their receivers, knowing they were not going to be able to get hurt. And Tennessee, in my mind, did what a really good team does. They take advantage of where their strengths are, and they try to hide their weaknesses. And again, they did a great job for the most part of keeping Daniels from hurting them with his running ability, because any passing attack that they're able to generate is usually because Daniels is able to create those through scrambling, because he is not a progressions quarterback. If that primary receiver is not open, he is most likely going to be able to try to find some open space and make some big yardage that way. And Tennessee simply did not allow it. But with Bryce Young, if he plays, which I agree with you, I think he will. As a matter of fact, I had heard that he really wanted to come into the game in the fourth quarter against A&M. So I think he's really close. But if Bryce Young's able to play, then you've got a totally different ball game, because he can obviously exploit the weaknesses Tennessee has in the secondary. So it's a really fascinating matchup because Tennessee's playing with such confidence. And, the difference this year, Jimmy, is that up to this point, Tennessee has won the close games that last year they lost. And I think it presents a different mindset up and down their roster. They have more depth. And also what's impressive about this is that, they've been doing it without Tillman. So when they get him back, they're going to be even more effective.
Jim, I'm thinking about that. Again, when you have a star player that's not
for the
playing,
Tennessee fan base for their program.
Yeah, Jimmy, Jimmy Hodge, you're breaking up a little bit. I don't know if your internet or something, but Jimmy Hyams, that's the thing about it. When your star player, the best player on your team, and you could argue, but I think he is, Cedric Tillman, isn't there, you got to be careful about going, hey, when he comes back, we can all let up. I think Tennessee's playing right now with a sense of urgency going, hey, man, we don't have Cedric Tillman. We've all got to up our games. That can work in your favor. Not that you don't want him to come back.
Yeah, it can. But I do think this. And while I think McCoy has stepped up, I think Hyatt has stepped up. I don't see them stepping back when Tillman returns. Now, with Hendon Hooker, I think Hendon Hooker is so good at reading defenses, at finding the open receiver. He doesn't miss too many as far as eyesight. He may overthrow somebody, but he typically finds the open receiver and hits him. So when you bring Tillman back in the equation, I think that just makes him more dangerous. But I also think that you'll see McCoy continue to prosper. See, what I think part of this is done is it's engendered more confidence in McCoy based on his production. Hyatt is a very confident player this year. He wasn't last year, which is one reason he got benched. He kept dropping passes. You put that threesome out there, I'm not sure if there's a better trio of receivers in the country. And I think it makes Tennessee's passing game even more dangerous.
And Jimmy, looking at Alabama, you're right. The coaches are going to say things to keep their opponents off guard about injuries. And that, I mean, of course, that's been that way as long as I can remember. I remember working in the press box as a student at Auburn. Don't answer the phone. Some guy, from up in New Jersey calling up wanting to know about injuries. He ain't a fan. So that's the take on this. But one thing about Tennessee that you like is they're not, again, like a lot of the Big 12 teams and a lot of the hurry up, no huddles, 4 or 5 wideouts, empty set backfields. Tennessee can impose their will. They can get as physical as anybody. Are they going to be physical enough? Talk about that matchup, Tennessee's offensive line versus Alabama's defensive line, especially those edge, Palmer, Will Anderson Jr. They've got some players.
So I thought Tennessee's offensive line did a tremendous job against LSU, which has a good offensive line. B.J. Ojolari and some of those guys, they're good football players. They did a really nice job. I didn't think Tennessee could run for 260-some-odd yards. They did. I thought for the most part they did a nice job of protecting Hendon Hooker. There there should have been one sack. One sack fumble was picked up by a running back, and he gained yards, so it ended up not being a sack. Having said that, this is a whole different animal with Alabama. With Will Anderson and those guys, I don't like that matchup for Tennessee's offensive line. I don't think they'll come close to running for 260 yards. I think if they get over 100 yards, that's a successful day against Alabama. I think Tennessee's going to have to throw 40-plus passes against Alabama to be effective on offense.
All right, and we're going to do this. We're going to take a break. I got a couple more minutes after we come back with Jimmy Hyams. And Jimmy, so you're saying Tennessee, not maybe 160 yards. I think if Tennessee can run for 150, 160 yards, that right there, that'll keep them in this game going into the fourth quarter. We're going to talk more, Rob Browne, Jimmy Hyams, Jimmy Hodge on this Monday, right after this quick break. More side.
Red River Ford and Toyota, located in Wynne, Arkansas. If you're in the market for a new or used car, truck, or SUV, call, go online, or drop by and see them. Located 45 minutes from Memphis, go off the 4-city exit on I-40 and go north about 15 minutes on Highway 1. Easy to work with and still believe in customer service. If you live out of town, they will deliver your vehicle to you. RedRiverFordToyota.com. Just see what they can do.
Strengthen your seed zone this spring with quality tillage equipment from House Industries. Located in Cherry Valley, Arkansas, House Industries specializes in manufacturing superior equipment that will minimize your downtime and keep you working in the field. To ensure the highest quality control, all design, fabrication, and testing takes place in a 99,000 square foot manufacturing facility located right here in the heart of the Delta. Locate your nearest House equipment dealer online at houseindustriesinc.com.
House Industries, breaking ground.
Sidelines with Rob Browne. Talk sporty to me.
All right, Jimmy Hyams, along with Jimmy Hodge, Rob Browne here on Sidelines. One more question, Jimmy, about this Tennessee-Alabama matchup. How big a deal, if Tennessee can find a way to beat Alabama, you're going to start hearing the talk about the playoff and all that stuff that comes with it. From what you know about this team, this coaching staff and whatever, don't you think this is what they want?
Well, yeah, you want to be in position to play big games. You want to be in a conversation about the college football playoff. You want to be in a conversation about winning the SEC championship. Now, with that, the higher you start climbing up that totem pole, the more painful the losses can be. So, look, I think the Tennessee fans have been extremely excited about what Heupel has done, what this team has done. They're way, way ahead of schedule when you consider all the attrition that he inherited when he got to Tennessee. You still got the NCAA investigation hanging over your head that hadn't been resolved yet. But, yeah, I think this is exactly the position they want to be in. And, look, if you gave them some truth serum, I bet you they would tell you they're ahead of schedule too. There's no way when you look, there could have been 45 players on last year's team that were not transfer portal, retirement. They let them out of the national letter, 45 of them. And yet here you are sitting there in a position you're ranked number 6 in the country. You're undefeated. This is the biggest game against Alabama. Well, it's the first time both have been undefeated since 1989. I'm not going to say it's the biggest game since then, but it's the first time both have been undefeated. The stakes are high. And I think Tennessee's ready for the challenge. That doesn't mean they're going to win it, but I do think they will make this a fourth quarter game.
Yeah. Jimmy, one of the last thing about those point spreads, it was 95 or 97. I remember I was in Memphis going to work one morning listening to George Lapidus was on Sports 56 WHBQ, and the question was brought up. I think it was either 95 or 97. When was the last time Alabama was a 15-point underdog? And that was in the Tennessee game, wasn't it? We're seeing some strange stuff happen, but I think this Tennessee team, and that was exactly what I was going to ask you about. 45 players entered the portal. 38 to the portal. 4 were let out of their national letter of intent, and a couple were medically retired. How good would Tennessee be with those guys still there? Henry Toa, some of the other players that went to Oklahoma. I mean, I think Tennessee, and I'm been in the investment business for a long time, is what I would call a deep discount value opportunity. A stock that normally trades at about $60 a share that you can get for about $38 with a 4.5% dividend yield. I mean, I'm not saying they're going to win Saturday because of that, but when they keep filling in the pieces in recruiting, and I would imagine it's going pretty well, I think they got a special coach.
I do too. Now, back to your question. If they had Henry Toto and some of those other players, would they be better? On paper, they would be. I will say this. Some of the players that left, even though they were talented, there might have been some chemistry issues.
Yeah.
But it wouldn't have been with Henry T. Now, I know him very well. He would have been great if he had stayed here, and several others would have been also. So the talent level would be better. You'd have a higher ceiling with those guys. Your secondary would probably be a little bit better. But to me, given all of what we're talking about, it's just stunning to see Tennessee in this position. And I was reading a story somebody wrote the other day that the most under-talked about story in the country is Tennessee's emergence from where they were when they won 3 games during the COVID season of 2020 to where they are right now. It's been a great story. I know there are a lot of really good stories out there like Kansas, and I get that. But what Tennessee has done the last year and a half has been incredible.
It really has. And I'm going to tell you something else. Every time you're on, I can tell you're more excited. I bet you're having a blast doing the show because I have a lot of Tennessee friends, and a bunch of them went down to New Orleans, then made it up to Baton Rouge for that game. But you got the right AD. He made the right hire as a football coach, and it can make you forget quickly about years of frustration. And then Tennessee isn't the only school that's been through that, but they're definitely doing it right. Jimmy, let people know how they can follow you on social media and your daily sports radio show, and look forward to having you on again. And again, thank you for taking time out of your Monday to join us. We really appreciate it.
Thanks, Rob. My Twitter account is @JimmyHyams. Very simple. You can find us on iHeartRadio. You can find us by going to 991thesportsanimal.com. I've written several blogs that you can follow the blogs there as well. If you're in the area, you can find us at 99 on the dial, 990 AM or 99.1 FM.
All
Thanks,
right.
Rob.
Have a great one, man. You bet.
Okay.
I love it.
You take care. All right.
You do too. Thank you. All right. Let's head over to Atlanta, Smyrna, Atlanta, Dunwoody, 40 different exits, 6.5 million people spread out over 22 counties, a proud son of Wilmington, North Carolina, NC State basketball, Letterman alumnus, TV producer, actor. And Tommy, I'm looking forward to your next role in a movie. But anyway, long time with Fox Sports, ACC Network, ACC Road Trip. Tommy Kane, man. And Tommy, Jimmy Hodge and I looking forward to talking with you about what went on in the ACC over the weekend. But in talking with Jimmy Hyams just in from Knoxville, big matchup, Tennessee, Alabama. There's just a lot of good football being played around the country.
Hold on for 1 second, guys. I got a little bit of feedback here. Hold on.
Okay.
All right, I'm good. Go ahead.
Okay. But we've got a lot of big games that are being played. I see Clemson's in the top 5 right now. Wake Forest is sitting there at 14. And again, I know people will argue, and I'm not saying it just because you're on here. I think they play good football in the ACC, and they're playing better football. I'm not saying that Jim Phillips is the best commissioner, but I think that the league, somehow they're getting a message to try to ramp your game up. I don't know how good the SEC is. I mean, Texas A&M wasn't given a chance. I mean, that was David versus Goliath, and they almost pulled it off.
Right.
You still got to play the games. And I think fans get caught up in thinking that, well, there's no chance this team wins or that team wins. Well, the players, they didn't get that memo, did they?
No, of course not. I mean, like I've told you before, when Coach Valvani used to say on the basketball court, there's 5 athletes versus 5 athletes on the court. At any given time, anything can happen. And I mean, college football is a little different because there's so many integral moving parts with a college football team. But when you got 11 guys out there that are fired up and hungry and they're executing well, and the other teams might not be executing their game plan as well or running their offense as well, anything can happen. And I think you're seeing that across college football. A&M, had them, man. They were right there at the end, and it would have turned the college football up on its ear if they had beaten Alabama, right? So that's what we love about the sport. That's what makes every Saturday amazing, and everybody can't wait till Saturday to get here. I mean, it's Monday, and I'm already ready for Saturday to be tomorrow. I want to see some more games. Let's go.
Well, I'm right there with you, and I look around at the big picture. We had Ken Capps on out at the Texas State Fair in between eating funnel cakes, corn dogs, and all that turkey legs and all that great fair food. Texas was a 7-point favorite against Oklahoma. And Brent Venables, and you watched him at Clemson. Your wife's a Clemson grad. My wife is a Tennessee Vol for life. What rivalries are like. He was there 10 years at Clemson, an elite defensive coach. He goes back to Oklahoma, and for the 3rd straight week, they've given up, I think, 135 points in the last 3 games. And it's a different world, but think about it. Lincoln Riley left for Southern Cal and took a whole bunch of the Sooners' best players. So I want you to, other than Clemson, talking about Florida State, NC State, Syracuse, Pitt, Miami, Wake Forest, when are people going to say, you know what? Wake Forest is a pretty damn good football team. They've got a good coach, Dave Clawson. They're doing a lot of things right. And they've got tough academic standards. Hell, we all know this. The ACC is really half the schools, I believe, are private universities. It's tough to do it academically over there. And I look at what Wake Forest does. And I look at, other schools. NC State is I'm not saying that because you went there. It is a really good school. They're part of that research triangle over there, Raleigh, Durham, Chapel Hill. And they're getting it done. There's no excuse for Vanderbilt to be struggling like they are, but talk about Wake Forest and that culture Dave Clawson has built there.
Yeah, it's interesting because let's face it, Wake Forest has had a couple good years here and there, and when Caldwell was there, the head coach, and Jim Caldwell was there, and he had him a couple good years in some big bowl games, but there's just never been that consistent, year after year after year, Wake Forest is in the top 25 kind of thing. And I think now Clawson's kind of got them at the doorstep, so to speak, of being year in and year out. They're a good program, and I think what you're going to see is just that's going to help across the board, right? That helps with recruiting. It helps with everything when you just consistently have a good team. It's better than if you have 1 year when you're in the top 20, and in the next 3 years you're struggling and can barely give 500 on the year, but then 5 years later you're in the top 20 and you drop back out. It's all about consistency, I think, with schools like Wake Forest. And like you said, great academic institution. Great. Winston-Salem's a great city to be a part of, and a good atmosphere on their games. Like I think I talked about the other week with you. It's more of like a very family-friendly atmosphere and beautiful stadium there. And look, they've got a great quarterback. They've had great quarterbacks in the past, and they really have had. And I'm sitting there looking around at
Grove Stadium up there. It's not the biggest, but they've done a lot of improvements to it.
Right.
And it is really, I tell you what, it's a lot like, it reminds me of a lot of these Major League Baseball venues. And you've got, like you say, you can hide 4 or 5 years playing in the school and not take your education seriously if you want to. But if you take your education as seriously as you do your football career, practice and approach it like that, you graduate from a place like Wake Forest or an NC State, I mean, you're going to be able to choose your career, choose your jobs. And so that's something I'd be recruiting for. Not that the SEC schools aren't good, but you got to find the good in every scenario. And I'm looking at, and look at NC State at 5-1, North Carolina at 5-1. Now, 2 schools, Florida State now 4-0. They're 4-2. But look who's 2-1. I mean, I'm saying this with a straight face, 2-1 in the ACC after the miserable start. Georgia Tech, Buzz, the Rambling Wreck, hell of a Rambling Wreck. What's going on in Atlanta?
You know what? I mean, we've talked about these guys every week on the show, guys, and they I said it 5 times ago. I'll say it again. When I watched them play Clemson that first game of the year, and I was there at the game, and the first half I was like, wow, Georgia Tech's got some speed. They got some athletes, and Sims is a heck of a versatile quarterback. The guy can run. I mean, I think this past week he had 2 touchdowns through the air, 227 yards, and he ran for about 100 yards. I mean, that's a dual threat quarterback. And when you have a dual threat quarterback like that, anything can happen in the game. The guy, you got to contain him. Do you not contain him? You try to keep in the pocket or whatever, and he's going to run on you. It's tough to play defensively against that. But, hats off to not just the coaching staff that came in that filled in with Georgia Tech, but to all the players to just kind of, pull their belts a little tighter, pull their boots up and say, let's go and let's not give up, guys. Let's keep playing hard. The season's not even close to being over. Yeah, we got blown out by Ole Miss. I mean, it was an embarrassment of titanic proportions. Yeah, but that's credit to the fortitude of those young men to just say, hey, let's keep playing, man. We got a lot to play for. And now look at them. They're 2-1 in the ACC and they're 3-3 overall. I mean, what else do you want? They got a brand new coach. They got an interim coach that stepped in. They got the AD's been fired, and they said, look, let's just go win some football games. And Duke is not a bad team. Duke is a pretty solid football team. They got a couple good players, and Georgia Tech handled them. So there you go. Yeah,
and I think about this. I'm a traditionalist. I love the history, traditions, the heroes of college football and sports. And I've followed Georgia Tech for a long time because Auburn always played them. And I just look at a distance and I say, man, right coach and staff at that school in the city of Atlanta with their alumni base. They had a lot of foreign students that don't give a lick about college football, and that's just the way it is. But there's still a ton of people there that will go and support them. Grant Field, Bobby Dodd Stadium, and it's a great job if you do it and you get the right people in there, and it's starting to happen. Jimmy, jump in here. We got about 3 minutes before the break with Tommy Kane talking ACC football over in Atlanta. Okay. Jimmy, you there? Okay. Well, let's go in here, Tommy. 3-3, 2-1 Georgia Tech. Now, Florida State 4-0, suddenly 4-2. Too much, too soon, too optimistic to think, Florida State's really coming back. Nobody says they're back in Texas fans in the last decade.
Right. Let's face it, this weekend with the NC State game, the Wolfpack dodged a bullet there. I mean, we lost our quarterback, Devin Leary, the preseason player of the year in the ACC. We lost him to a shoulder. We lost our our best wide receiver in Devin Carter. We lost our best running back in Sumo Carnegie, and so we lost a lot of weapons on the offensive side of the ball. But NC State dodged a bullet. Florida State had us. I mean, they were up. They scored 17 points in the second quarter on us. But then after that, we shut them out. So NC State's defense really stepped up and won the game for them. But Florida State Travis, unfortunately, the quarterback made a couple of bad decisions at the end of the game with throwing some balls into some areas he shouldn't have done it. Their punter made a tremendously terrible mistake. Got a little pressure, and he took off scrambling and tried to do a running punt, and he stepped right over the line of scrimmage when he punted it. So that's just a loss of down in the ball at that spot. And so the NC State had a gift handed to them there. But, hey, they won the game, and that's all that matters in the day. Florida State is a good team. They've lost 2 in a row. They entertained the Clemson Tigers this weekend down in Doak. I wouldn't be surprised, and I'm going to go out on a limb here, that they take Clemson into the fourth quarter and it's a tight game. And I wouldn't be surprised at all. I think that's could put them right back on in the driver's seat, just so to speak. And I think they got the talent to do it. It's just a matter of they can execute. And Travis is the quarterback has got to play a really good game for them to win. But I think it's going to be a tight game down in Doak this weekend.
Well, Mike Norvell is one of the best play caller football coaches that I've seen. I watched what he did at Memphis and Doak Campbell Stadium. It's an incredible environment, and recruits are looking at this too. And I mean, this is one thing I always am kind of surprised. People are kind of, you got a bunch of top recruits there at a game and you lose it. Oh no, they're not going to come. It's not like they hadn't lost a game before. They're looking at the reaction of the crowd, the game day atmosphere, facilities, all that. And really what it gets down to is interaction and the relationships that they build. We're going to do this. We're going to take a quick break, come back with more great insight with Tommy Kane over in Atlanta on ACC, what's going on, big picture college football, and more after this quick commercial break.
Red River Ford and Toyota, located in Wynne, Arkansas. If you're in the market for a new or used car, truck, or SUV, call, go online, or drop by and see them. Located 45 minutes from Memphis, go off the 4-city exit on I-40 and go north about 15 minutes on Highway 1. Easy to work with and still believe in customer service. If you live out of town, they will deliver your vehicle to you. RedRiverFordToyota.com. Just see what they can do.
Strengthen your seed zone this spring with quality tillage equipment from House Industries. Located in Cherry Valley, Arkansas, House Industries specializes in manufacturing superior equipment that will minimize your downtime and keep you working in the field. To ensure the highest quality control, all design, fabrication, and testing takes place in a 99,000 square foot manufacturing facility located right here in the heart of the Delta. Locate your nearest House equipment dealer online at houseindustriesinc.com.
House Industries, breaking ground.
Sidelines with Rob Browne. Talk sporty to me.
All right, Rob Browne back with Tommy Kane and over in Atlanta talking ACC football. Tommy, again, you look at these programs like Pitt, like Syracuse, and they're really out of what we call the traditional geographical footprint that is ACC. I wonder if we're not going to see some stuff going forward, like swap Syracuse, go to the Big Ten, and get Maryland back into the ACC. And because we just think about the legendary Cole Fieldhouse, Lefty Driesell, the foot stomps. Jimmy said he met Lefty one time, maybe in the Atlanta airport or somewhere at a coaches convention. And he said, Lefty, you got to give it one time. Give me a foot stomp. And he goes, oh, hell, all right. Now, he's still alive. I think he's about 90 now. But is that a possibility going forward?
Rob, come on, man. Your guess is as good as mine, right? In the college football landscape as we have today and what everything's taking and making. I mean, you know what? Maryland was always a great member of the ACC, especially when it came to basketball. Like you said, Cole Fieldhouse was just a great place, and Lefty was iconic up there. Maryland had some good football teams for a while there. They had some big talent. They're tying with the Under Armour family and all that stuff. But, it's who knows? I mean, who knows? They would be. I'd love to see him come back in just from a basketball standpoint, more than football personally. But it was a shame to see them go. And I'm like you. I'm a traditionalist. I mean, I like when things stay the same, especially with the ACC and all the traditions that they've established there across the board. But dude, your guess is as good as mine when it comes to stuff like that. Who knows what's going to happen up there? I'll tell you a quick funny story about Cole Fieldhouse that I think you'll get a kick out of. So when I got put on the team in my senior year in basketball, it was like the second or third game that I was able to dress out. A second game, I guess I was able to dress out for. And both teams were bad. NC State and Maryland were bad at the time. We went up to Cole Fieldhouse to play, and I was dressed out, full jersey, uniform, and everything like that. but I was the NCAA had not cleared me yet. So we're running out in the court, warm up, do whatever. The game gets going, and we're getting the tar beaten out of us. We're down by like 28, 30 points with like 2 minutes to go. Coach Robinson clears the whole bench and let everybody play, but he can't let me play. So right behind the student, right behind our bench is the student section for Cole Fieldhouse, and the whole student section starts cheering, "We want Kane! We want Kane! We want Kane!" And so Coach looks down at me, and I look down at him, and he just kind of shrugs his shoulders because he can't put me in. I'm not eligible yet by the NCAA rules. I have to clear, and so finally, I mean, they go on for a good 5 minutes. Finally, they just stop. They just give up. The student section gives up. And this one dude stands up in the middle of the student section. He goes, "Hey, Kane, you must really suck. You're down by 30 and you're still not in the game."
Oh man. Well, look, that's something you'll never forget. Probably inspired you to be successful like you are today. It was an NCAA waiver. I
had a clear house. Once they put you on a team as a walk or anything like that, you just got to go through. They got to check background checks, everything else, just to make sure and get all the paperwork done. And they hadn't done it yet by that time, and so I just never forget that. I tell that story a lot of times when I talk to folks and give talks and whatever, and usually gets a good kick out of it. But
oh yeah.
But anyway, Cole Fieldhouse is a great place. Maryland's a great institution. I hated seeing him jump to the Big Ten, but it is what it is. And what happens in the future, who knows? I would love to see him come back, but we'll see what it is. But I tell you what, I mean, Syracuse, and like you said, and Pitt, both, Syracuse especially having a good year this year right now. I'm interested how that all shakes out. We play them this weekend. NC State plays them up. It used to be the Carrier Dome. It's now the JM Wireless Dome or something like that. We play them this weekend, and they're undefeated. First time they've had a top 20 matchup up there since I read this morning, since 1998. It's the first time Syracuse has had a top 20 matchup in their dome. So we'll see what happens up there this weekend. It'll be interesting because NC State, like I said, I don't think we'll have our quarterback. Devin Leary's out. Preseason All ACC Player of the Year in the ACC. I think he'll be out with a shoulder. We got banged up at running back and wide receiver this past weekend, so we'll see. It could be I think we were favored by 2 going in, and after all the injuries and stuff like that have come out, I think Syracuse is now favored by 4.5. So they've swung pretty big. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, and I'm thinking that last top 20 matchup up in the Carrier Dome in Syracuse in '98 would have been when Tennessee traveled up there and played Syracuse, got away with a very close win en route to the national championship. They won
exactly right.
in the desert that year. So that, and I'm with you. I'm just asking that. I know that's a hell of an ask to say, you think Maryland's coming back, but, and Syracuse they do bring a lot. I mean, they're a basketball. They've got, their football's good right now. Lacrosse, ACC lacrosse is so big over there that you don't realize in other conferences how good it is unless you are a lacrosse player and you watch a lot of it on TV. But that's big on the East Coast, especially in the Atlantic Coast Conference.
It is. Don't forget too, Syracuse has got a heck of a broadcasting department.
Oh God.
You name the who's who of ESPN commentators, play-by-play guys, or whatever. I would say 75% of them are all Syracuse grads. So there's,
exactly.
Has a lot to do with that too. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Syracuse and Missouri's College of Journalism. And you're right. They're always the Q's Nation. We have a guy, David Schultz, on from WNSP 105 FM down in Mobile, which is the oldest FM station in America that's an all sports format. And he is, they call it Q's Nation. And he's waiting for the other shoe to drop almost, because they've had such success, and Ben Schwarzenwald and Dick McPherson and Paul Pasqualani got it going there. And then Dino Babers, we remember they beat Clemson on a Friday night back in 17, 18. It's just the toughest thing to do with a program is to maintain a high level of success consistently. That's what's so hard to do. I want to get back to Dave Doran, head football coach at NC State. Again, I was watching a game last year. Y'all were playing South Florida opening weekend. I think you won 45-7, and ACC Network was there. Again, beautiful stadium. People up there tailgate. They do everything just like everybody else. But Dave Doran last year, NC State, didn't get to play the bowl game. Could have had one of the best seasons in school history.
Right.
You're going to play Syracuse. How big is that game? I think NC State goes in there and gets the win.
You know what? I mean, that's a bold statement. You look at Syracuse, who they've played this year. They haven't really played anybody, right? I mean, if you look at their schedule, I think they've played, like, they had Wagner just a couple weeks ago, whatever. It's a blowout win. But they had Virginia earlier in the year. Virginia, they barely beat Virginia 22-20. They beat Purdue, they beat UConn, and Louisville, I think, was their first game of the year. They blew them out. So they've had, they haven't really played anybody of substance yet, because Virginia just isn't quite the Virginia we all thought they were going to be this year. They barely beat them 22-20. UConn's a terrible team. Wagner's a terrible team. Louisville, at the beginning of the year, is kind of struggling. So they haven't really played anybody yet either. Say Syracuse hasn't. So you might be right. NC State's defense, let me tell you, their defense won the Florida State game from this past weekend. So defensively, we're going to be right there. I don't have any problem with seeing us stopping them from scoring. It's whether or not we could score on the offside of the ball. And the reason why, Syracuse has the best defense in the ACC right now. But again, they haven't really played anybody. But I think they only give up 14 points a game, so they lead the league in that. So we'll see. I think this weekend up in Syracuse, you will see a true test of how good Syracuse really is. And we really just don't know yet. NC State, 5-1, they're on the verge of, if they can get through Syracuse, it's really going to be a big step in the right direction again after beating Florida State, playing Clemson tough. And we come back from Syracuse, and I believe we got Virginia Tech, which is they're kind of struggling. Then we go into play Wake Forest. So, it could shape up to be a good season, but we got to get our quarterback back. The kid that we put in, there was a backup quarterback, was down from Charleston Southern, played at Charleston Southern, threw for like 5,000 some yards down there. It was a transfer walk-on for us. This is a stat I've never thought I'd hear in college football. A quarterback, he had more catches than he had completions in the game for Florida State. He didn't have one completion, but he only threw the ball. I think he only threw it 3 times, and but they ran a trick play where they threw it to Thayer Thomas. Thayer Thomas threw it back, and he caught the ball. So he had a reception, but no completions. And I guarantee you that's some stat record in some stat book. That's for sure.
Oh yeah, that's going to be a trivia question for a steamer pack of crystals. You're there in Atlanta. We're going up to Knoxville this weekend with Mark Ham to watch the Tennessee-Alabama game. But you're there in Atlanta, and I'm curious what names that you're hearing surfacing to be the new head football coach at Georgia Tech. Hell, it may be this interim coach if he continues to have success. But again, I go back to when Jeff Collins took that job at Georgia Tech. He called it the 678, the 404, 770 branding. Atlanta is a destination, no big city in America that's that big, has such friendly people, and is so good at putting on large sporting events and every other thing else too. But I'm betting you there's some names out there that we don't know about, and you probably do.
I got to tell you, guys, I really don't. I honestly don't. I listen to sports talk in the morning and all that stuff here in the local Atlanta. And how can you kind of argue with what's been happening so far? This guy, I think this interim coach is basically, can write his ticket to be the next head football coach if he keeps winning. But we'll see. Deion Sanders' name still pops up a lot. People are still excited about that. The idea of seeing prime time come back to Atlanta and his glory years of the city and seeing what he could do at Georgia Tech. And because heck, Lord knows the city just, like you said, so much, how can I say, so much charisma for a college football athlete to come to play at Georgia Tech. There's the big city, the NBA teams and the NFL team and the big city atmosphere, all the hip hop music and all that stuff that's focused and centralized here. So
yeah,
there's no reason why Georgia Tech shouldn't be a top 25 team year in and year out. I think who the coach that comes in, man, I really haven't heard much more than you guys probably have. I think that the head coach the interim coach that's right there right now, and his name escapes me at this point in time, but he's done great so far. If he keeps winning, who knows? And I think the AD that comes in too that'll be a big factor in it all as well.
Yeah, I think I may have put the old proverbial phrase "cart before the horse," saying, "Who are the AD names that you're hearing being mentioned?" Because really, you want that AD to go out there and hire the coach. But again, right there, right on Interstate 85, across from the varsity, right in the heart of Atlanta. It's a place that a lot of people want to go to and be a part of. And I think academically, it's tough. I mean, everybody's got to take calculus. It's like basic training. No matter what you might want to be a chef in the Army or a doctor or a ranger. It doesn't matter. You still got to go to Fort Benning, the Sand Hill Reception Station, and go through basic training for 13 weeks. And that's just the way it is. I mean,
one name I have heard, I remembered it because I was watching the other day on TV and I thought about it, and I actually heard about it. Dan Mullen's name has popped up a few times in some talk.
Okay.
Yeah. So thought about that too. It's interesting. Who knows? We'll see what happens. It'll be interesting to see. But like I said, right now, I mean, again, hats off to the players there and the current staff that is still there, because they've turned their season around. Whether they continue this, who knows? But they could have easily just rolled over and died after what's gone down up there and gotten blown out every weekend. But they've turned around and won 2 football games. And to me, that is just awesome. And I think that's the kind of stuff that changes those kids' lives forever if they can continue this, because they learned a lesson. Like when life knocks you down, when times get tough and things aren't going the way you thought they were, don't give up. Just keep banging, keep fighting, pull together as a team, and look what happens. And now they got 2 wins back to back. It's great. So
yeah, and it is. And I will say, I watch a game at the end. I was watching the end of the Auburn, Georgia game. You think I'm a sicko for doing that. It was 42-10. I want to see the players out there that are still fighting and scratching and clawing, because how you end up a game, just like at a finish line in a race, every kid I've ever coached in track and field and cross country I've ever said, don't run to it, run through it. I'm talking about the finish line, because if you get caught in the chute there at the end from behind, that's as bad as misspelling your own name. That's just something I made up. But Tommy Kane, tell people how they can follow you. You got a great video production company there in Atlanta. Always look forward to having you on. You bring a lot of high positive energy, the ACC perspective, and you have run down and rubbed the Frank Howard Rock at Clemson. You've been a cheerleader. Hell, you probably jumped from 30,000 feet up in an airplane too. But tell people how they can follow you.
I have done that. They can follow me. I'm on Instagram at Tommy Kane _talent. You can follow me and follow my production company, or kind of get in touch with me for that. If you need anything with PAC 30 Productions, PACK 30 Productions, that was my number at NC State. But yeah, I love talking to college football with you guys, and the ACC is a passion of mine, always has been. And I'm excited to see how the season shakes out. Next weekend will be a big one for the NC State Syracuse game, and we'll find out how good Syracuse really is, and then we'll keep watching the Georgia Tech story, see how that shapes out. It's interesting. It's good stuff all the way around.
Yeah, it is. And look, just be ready. We're going to be talking some basketball here with you very soon.
Oh, yeah. Then you get me really fired up. You're going to have to keep cutting me off, Big Rob.
No.
We got to get a break.
No, listen, I'm an Auburn fan. We're a basketball school. So
hey. It's funny how that changes. NC State right now is a football school. We were basketball most of the time, but hey, you take whatever you get. At least you got something to hang your hat on for now.
Absolutely, man. Listen, have a great week. Look forward to the next one.
All right, guys. Take care of yourselves. Bye-bye.
You too. Thanks. All right. We'll switch gears, head over to Savannah, Georgia. Oh, man, I got to ask you something, and I bet you I can predict this answer. Ben Troupe on with us, Swainsboro, Georgia native, Florida Gator All-American for Coach Steve Spurrier and Ron Zook, 5 years in the NFL. Recent book, Uncommon and Unfinished. Check it out. Get it on Amazon. Great book about a great man. Ben, you ever been to dinner or lunch at a place that is really cool in Savannah with great food? Miss Wilkes?
Of course, I've been to Miss Wilkes. They know me. They know me when I walk in. I don't even have to order no more. I just point at them, unless it's somebody new. Like you get the pandemic. You got a lot of new people there. But yeah, I walk in. I'm a simple man. I'm like my dad. I'm doing all I can every day, Rob, to not tuck my t-shirts in. That's the new thing. When people, how you know you're older? When you tuck your t-shirt in to go check the mail, you're not even leaving your yard. So if you see me with my shirt tucked in, I'm officially my dad. I have lost the war.
No, Ben, you're young. You got a long way to go. But Miss Wilkes is really cool. And y'all obviously over in Savannah, you're over there with Florida, Georgia fan bases, talking a lot of college football. You being a Gator, Gators got the win this past Saturday over Missouri. We're going to take a quick commercial break and come back and talk about where the Gators are and you know, the takeaways from the season up to this point and a lot more. But let's, again, take a quick break with more Sidelines after this.
Red River Ford and Toyota, located in Wynne, Arkansas. If you're in the market for a new or used car, truck, or SUV, call, go online, or drop by and see them. Located 45 minutes from Memphis, go off the 4-city exit on I-40 and go north about 15 minutes on Highway 1. Easy to work with and still believe in customer service. If you live out of town, they will deliver your vehicle to you. RedRiverFordToyota.com. Just see what they can do.
Strengthen your seed zone this spring with quality tillage equipment from House Industries. Located in Cherry Valley, Arkansas, House Industries specializes in manufacturing superior equipment that will minimize your downtime and keep you working in the field. To ensure the highest quality control, all design, fabrication, and testing takes place in a 99,000 square foot manufacturing facility located right here in the heart of the Delta. Locate your nearest House equipment dealer online at houseindustriesinc.com.
House Industries, breaking ground.
Sidelines with Rob Browne. Talk sporty to me.
All right, Rob Browne back here with you. Ben Troupe, again in Savannah, Georgia. Talk about the Gators' 24-17 win over Missouri. And we had Buddy Martin on, who you know well, Saturday on the College Football Roundtable. And I felt like, and Jimmy Hodge and the group on there, this could be an opportunity for the Gators to come home and really come out on fire. And it's why you have a new coach taking over for the previous coach, because things weren't going well. 24-17, Gators get the victory over Missouri. Missouri has 103 yards more offense than the Gators, more time of possession, whatever. But again, most important thing, you got the win. But what I want to know most importantly, what are Ben Troupe's takeaways on that Gator victory?
Well, I mean, first, you're always happy for the victory. I think Jaden Hill coming back, he definitely contributed a lot. 2 interceptions, 1 for a pick 6. I do think a guy in Anthony Richardson is always going to get way more praise than he should and way more criticism than he should. 66 yards passing, 1 touchdown, 1 interception is not going to get it done with the games you got coming up with teams like Georgia, LSU, Texas A&M, so on and so forth. But I think the main thing that I take from it, Rob, is you showing a team that's still figuring out. This is 5 games, right? Into this is 6 games. I'm sorry, into the Billy Napier era, and you realize the run game is the mainstay. When you look at this run game for Florida, it has what kept them in game. Ventrell Miller is playing like the Butkus Award winner right now. When you look at all the tackles he's making, but I'll take an ugly win than a blowout win, because you're going to learn more than ugly wins. LSU, Florida, Missouri, Florida. These are rivalries that the world doesn't really take notice of, because it ain't Florida, Georgia. It ain't Alabama, Tennessee. But Missouri, what people are in the last 10 meetings before Saturday, it was 5-5. Missouri had 1-5, Florida had 1-5. So Eli Drinkwitz understands that, look, we looking at them Florida guys every single year, because it usually is lopsided or Missouri will get a big win.
Yeah.
Dan Mullen, obviously him and Eli Drinkwitz had a nice thing going, but you got the win. I do think at a certain point, the passing game is going to have to get more consistent, because people go back to the Pearsall touchdown from Anthony Richardson, and I know he threw a bullet to him. Sanders, the tight end, was right there in that area. So I do think the passing game is going to have to keep making strides, but you will take the win, because, like I said, if that Missouri team that played against Georgia a week prior, if that team would have came to Gainesville, I don't think Florida would have came out with a win. But the crowd, the energy, the poise, and while the numbers don't show in the passing game for Anthony Richardson, I think he's still taking another step. I think he plays according to the quarterback across from him. If I got to send him a text message and say, listen, just act like the other quarterback is Hendon Hooker, because when you shared the field with him, you played up to I think what people want to see you do. But through another interception trying to make a play, Anthony Richardson just has to do things on time. And I think with LSU coming to town that night, we're going to see just how much he's grown in the last 5 games or 6 games.
Ben, I wanted to stop you, and I did not interrupt you because you were on a roll and you were making a great point. I want to go back to what you just said. If you could text or talk to Anthony Richardson, you'd say, hey, just pretend like that's Hendon Hooker on the other side of the field, on the other side of the line of scrimmage. He upped his game at Neyland Stadium. We know what this young man is capable of. He's a good kid, got in trouble over the summer. Hell, when I was 19 and 20, and you and I both you don't want to go there. I mean, but you know what? He owned up to it, and he's moving on. Okay, that's the power of grace and forgiveness. Hey, own up to it, take accountability, do your punishment, and move on. Somebody goes to jail, goes to prison, pays their dues, go back in society, integrate. We forgive you, move on. I like this guy. I like him a lot as a quarterback, but he's only started 7, 8 games, something like that. He's really had one true road game. Baptism under fire, Neyland Stadium, 100,000 plus. And the Gators were one Hail Mary away from getting the win up in Knoxville. And so I look at this. If you're a teammate, you're on that field and you're a tight end, and, like you and your personality, you're talking to him in the huddle in a game like they had against Missouri. And because I've got some questions about this after this, but what are you telling him when you go back?
I'm just telling him to keep playing. Because no matter how I feel about what he's doing, I don't do what he does. Like I don't play quarterback, and the quarterback is the one position. I want to say the 4 most pivotal positions in football is quarterback, kicker, punter, long snapper. Because no one does what they do. Like no one does what they do. We can dislike it, but I don't see what he sees. He sees the whole field. I'm seeing the field based off the side of the field that I'm on. I'm trying to dictate coverage, and I don't want him to lose confidence. At the end of the day, the goal is to win the game. Won the game, it just didn't look the way we wanted to. Yeah, because you know how it is, Rob. We are box score watchers now. Everybody, I don't want to have a bunch of yards and catches, but we lose because that look like I'm a front runner, like I'm padding stats. It's ugly, but you got to win. But at the end of the day, my job is to be the best tight end I can be for this ball club. Because I tell you all the time, if I run out there and I put my hand under center, now it's gotten bad. If I got to play quarterback, I got to tell my mama, get the hell out of the stadium because I don't need you criticizing me. And it's going to get ugly. It's going to get ugly. So it's like this. For my job now, being a radio host, my job is to not make life harder for my program director or my content creator. Just do what we ask. Don't improvise. And I think that's the thing about Anthony Richardson. When you look like that, his gift is his curse. He's 6'4", 240 pounds, can run a 4.4, and they expect him to be that every time he takes a snap. He can do the quote, boring things. I think he's got a shot to be as good as he want to be, but I do hope that because of 2022, hopefully he comes back for 2023.
Yeah, I mean, but he's a sophomore in terms of eligibility. So I hope he stays the longer. I think the longer he stays developed, he will be. So I wish him nothing but success. I want to flip over to Missouri, and Jimmy Hodge is having some issues up there trying to get him back on. But Jimmy, jump in when you can. But you go back to Missouri, the Auburn game. That's Jordan-Hare voodoo. I mean, you played at Jordan-Hare at night. It's a tough place there in Auburn. Then the next week against Georgia. Wow. And Jimmy Hodge said it best. Georgia, Missouri. Missouri's found more ways to snatch defeat from the jaws of victory. They go on the road 3 in a row. You're talking at Auburn, at home against Georgia, at Florida, where they're 5-5 in the previous 10 matchups. That's a hell of a statement to say that you've beaten the Gators 5 out of the last 10 times. Because you go back 1989, 2009, that 20-year period, Florida won more football games than any other college football program in the country. They averaged 10 wins a year for 20 years. And that was back during a lot of the 11-game schedule days. 8 SEC championships, 3 national championships. Tradition never graduates. But what do you think about Missouri? Eli Drinkwitz, this is his 3rd year there. He's from Alma, Arkansas. He was at Auburn in 2010 as an analyst on the national championship Auburn football team. The guy, he's a very likable guy. Can he coach Missouri and get them to success like Gary Pinkel had?
I think he can. The one thing Eli Drinkwitz is always going to run into is the fact that he's not going to get the respect because of where he coaches in the conference that he coaches in. Like
Missouri
is going to be looked upon like, I mean, I hate to say it, but like a Texas A&M, right? Texas A&M in the West, you get it. But unless you go into Atlanta and unless you beating Alabama, people are going to say, okay, they're going to make a bunch of headlines in the offseason. Jimbo Fisher is going to get a contract extension based off freaking potential. Eli, what they don't forget about him, he's been to Atlanta. You know how many teams have never been to Atlanta? He's one of them that went. So I do think Eli Drinkwitz understands I got to deal with the Georgias of the world. I got to deal with Florida. I got to deal with Kentucky. I got to deal with Tennessee. But they're judged on how many games can I get over 6? Can I get 7 wins? Can I get 8 wins? I think they're a really, really good program. We're not too many years removed from Drew Lock, leading the SEC in touchdown passes. So they have players. I just think that Missouri not understand they got an uphill battle because the teams around them are getting better. So even if Missouri is getting better, how do you stack up against the Tennessees and the Floridas? I think they can. I don't think that Georgia is the barometer right now, but that second and third slot in the East, I know Tennessee and Kentucky got something to say about it now. I think that's where Missouri is going to reside because it's going to be hard to compete with the boys from Athens.
Yeah, and speaking of Kentucky, 2 weeks in a row, Mitch Davis, MitchDavisShow.com's on with us a lot. Big Kentucky fan, knows the Caps program pretty well. That loss at South Carolina, is that more on Kentucky just letting Ole Miss beat them 2 weeks in a row, or is South Carolina starting to move up with Shane Beamer in year 2 and Spencer Rattler as a quarterback and starting to make some good things happen?
That's Coach Mark Stoops making bulletin board material in the SEC championship game. You want to be talking about other coaches? That ain't football. Like, you didn't have to say anything about what Coach Beamer does in South Carolina to get his players going with TikTok. That ain't have nothing to do with you. So you're making fun of their coaches, making fun of what he's doing with the sunglasses. Well, you better win. And when you don't win, what did Shane Beamer do? He goes, I turn my hat to the – can't dance, by the way. Good Lord. I can't dance a lick. Love Coach Shane Beamer. But, Rob, you know how it is with football teams. We use any little thing to get a nick. Like anything they disrespecting us. I would say this, though. Will Levis is a really, really good quarterback. Really, really good. When he goes to the combine, they're going to judge him on the teams that was good enough to beat him. They're going to say, well, why are you losing to these teams? I mean, when you're supposed to be the better quarterback, I still think Kentucky is an incredible program. But if you losing to teams like South Carolina, talking about trying to compete for the SEC East crown, it's like you laying an egg. You can't beat a Florida team and have a really, really good performance and lay eggs 2 weeks in a row. They still got a long season ahead. But the best quarterbacks have been in the system the longest, have had a head coach that's been there, the longest. And I like Will Levis. I'm not the way he takes his coffee. That's pretty nasty. Outside of that, the kid is a really, really good player.
I'm putting a big lump of mayonnaise in your coffee. I'm looking at my wife, Audrey, over here, Ben, and Jimmy, she's about to vomit. I mean, it really is. That's just gross. Yeah, I mean, but that won't hurt his NFL prospects. It may make him sick, but it'd be fun to watch. But Jimmy Hodge, jump in here. I know you were having some issues up there with a Blue Jay on the line or something. So jump in when you're here. Jimmy, can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you fine. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Jump in. We're talking with Ben Troupe. And again, the Kentucky fans, were you the one, Jimmy, that sat on the college football roundtable on Sidelines Saturday morning that or Frank or someone said, Kentucky, they're still Kentucky, but that loss has got to hurt at South Carolina, like Ben says.
Well, of course it does, but it was no different than the other teams that didn't have their starting quarterback available. I mean, look what happened to Arkansas. Look what happens to Bama when Bryce Young isn't available. Will Levis not being able to play against South Carolina was a killer. Yeah. And what made matters worse, the offensive coordinator they brought in from the 49ers on the first play, they run that reverse, which was a horrendous call for the first play of the game with the second string quarterback. They fumble it, and that just really set the tone for the whole ball game. And again, you have to have your starting quarterback available if he's healthy in this league, because when you have to make a change, things can get really ugly. And look at A&M. I mean, give them credit because they played without with Zach Johnson. I mean, Max Johnson.
With no Max Johnson.
But he doesn't turn the ball over. And then you had, Haynes King, who under the circumstances played well because he got beat to a pulp, and yet he hung in there and did the best he could, But in regard to this Missouri-Florida game, Ben, what I wanted to ask you about was I was stunned that Missouri coming back from back-to-back as just heartbreaking losses as you could imagine. I thought they were set to get run out of the swamp, and yet they played really solid football. And without the 2 Brady Cook interceptions, one of which was a pick six, I mean, it's anybody's ball game. You got to really give Drinkwitz credit for having his team to play at the level they did in the swamp when they could have easily packed it in.
Well, absolutely. I was very impressed by him. And I mean, you mentioned the 2 picks, one for a pick six. Jaden Hill, welcome back with everything he's had to deal with. But it's not that our defense, I mean, love our defense, obviously, because I have to. But it used to be 3rd and 6, 3rd and 7 was a hard, third down. Now they're giving up with 3rd and 18, 3rd and 28, 3rd and 26. And these guys are, still staying on the field. So credit that Missouri offense for being able to extend drives. And I just think that Missouri is a team, they're not afraid of Florida. They're not afraid of coming to Florida. And you see the way they play, 24-17, which you needed every single minute of that game. I mean, a big stop on 4th down, but give Missouri a lot of credit. To be able to get up for those type of games, to come up short, to play 3 quarters of great football against Georgia, to lay an egg in the 4th, to then have to come on the road to play Florida. I think that benefited Florida, but Missouri's a team that's going to scratch and claw. They're going to play everybody to the wire, so I was very, very impressed by that.
Hey, another thing, Ben, a lot of people don't realize, but Missouri, the state of Missouri passed legislation, or they're on the verge of passing it, where their NIL game is going to be stepped up considerably. They have a bunch of former Missouri players in that state legislature, and they have let it known that they are going to compete with anybody as far as the NIL game goes, and they're going to be competitive as anybody for the top players in the SEC. And there are a lot of good players, in Illinois, in Kansas City, and St. Louis, and they're going to go get down into Texas. And they're going to be throwing a lot of NIL money to try to get some of these top players. And they're going to also be very active going forward in that transfer portal.
That's definitely going to be their claim of fame. I mean, I know that a place like Missouri, you don't have to compete with nobody else in the SEC because of your location. So the transfer portal, the more money you can. Anybody that says we're not offering players money before they get on campus, all right, I want to be there for them. I want to hear some of them tape conversations, but they got the product on the field too. Missouri plays good football on the field, which is a great, best selling point. And if I'm being able to get big time players in the transfer portal, as well as offering them big money to come there, I mean, I think Missouri could be they could get to a point where they can do in the East what kind of like Arkansas and Ole Miss does in the West. They don't get the credit for it, but Ole Miss and Arkansas are a hard teams to beat because of the coaches and the product on the field, and obviously the NIL dollars away from it. So I do think Eli Drinkwitz and company going to be able to benefit from that tremendously.
All right, Ben, we're going to do this, and Jimmy, going to take a quick break. And when I come back, I want to get into a question. I'm going to throw it to you first, Ben. It's from one of our viewers, listeners, David Baker. Win or lose to Alabama, which game is bigger? Because Tennessee still has Georgia and Kentucky left to play on the schedule. So we'll address that one quickly after this commercial break on Sidelines.
Red River Ford and Toyota, located in Wynne, Arkansas. If you're in the market for a new or used car, truck, or SUV, call, go online, or drop by and see them. Located 45 minutes from Memphis, go off the 4-city exit on I-40 and go north about 15 minutes on Highway 1. Easy to work with and still believe in customer service. If you live out of town, they will deliver your vehicle to you. RedRiverFordToyota.com. Just see what they can do.
Strengthen your seed zone this spring with quality tillage equipment from House Industries. Located in Cherry Valley, Arkansas, House Industries specializes in manufacturing superior equipment that will minimize your downtime and keep you working in the field. To ensure the highest quality control, all design, fabrication, and testing takes place in a 99,000 square foot manufacturing facility located right here in the heart of the Delta. Locate your nearest House equipment dealer online at houseindustriesinc.com.
House Industries, breaking ground.
Sidelines with Rob Browne. Talk sporty to me.
Okay, Ben Troupe, that question again from David Baker for the break. Let's take it. Win or lose to Alabama, Tennessee still has Kentucky and Georgia left to play. Which game is bigger?
It's definitely Alabama. Alabama's the barometer. Alabama is the barometer in college football, not just in the SEC. And if you are Coach Heupel and company, right? You ain't making no preseason declarations like Jimbo Fisher did in 2021, but you guys know if we can't beat them, we're just a good team.
Yeah.
And we're a good program. If we want to go to a great program, because think about it, got the head coach, got the scheme, got the quarterback, we got to do it. Because if not, all that other stuff seems very, very minimal. Yes, I know you still want to try to compete for the East against the Kentucky, against the Georgia. But if you can beat Alabama, that means, dude, we can beat anybody. Because what Alabama does, that said, hey, man, we can beat Clemson. We can beat Ohio State, right? We could beat a Michigan because that's what you're really saying is, okay, you go from winning your side of the conference, going to Atlanta, then let's see if we make the college football playoff. If you can't beat those boys from Tuscaloosa, it's a wrap. Because what Texas A&M showed you last week was that's how hard it is to beat them. With everything on your side, no Bryce Young, got the ball in our hand, can you get it done? If you are Hendon Hooker, you were saying, hey, man, this is where I show the world, not just the SEC, what type of player I am, which I don't think you got to prove anything. But if you can beat Alabama, which I think is always going to be the biggest game, I think that's the one you got to get over because Georgia is totally different if you're coming in with an L. Kentucky is totally different. You've already got a loss. You beat Alabama, that lets Georgia know, okay, man, these boys over here for real. Because y'all know how it is, Rob. If you can't beat Alabama, you can have a good season. That's the difference in having a great season. I think it's going to be Tennessee, Alabama. Because last time I checked, they haven't beat those boys in a while.
Yeah, and you look at it from the players, from the coaches' perspective, and then you got the fans. Well, the coaches have got to tell their players, and from playing, guys, it's a 12-chapter book. We're going in for Tennessee. This is game 6, so it's chapter 6 for them. Don't look ahead to chapter 9, chapter 11, or 12. Don't look ahead to Georgia down between the hedges. Don't look ahead to Kentucky, which comes to Neyland Stadium. You better be focused, all your energy, everything on this Alabama team coming in. And one other thing, Ben, you played college, played pro ball 5 years. It's true, isn't it? You can't let the team that beats you Saturday beat you 2 weeks in a row. If you're still talking about that loss Thursday or Friday of that next week, I think from my perspective, you're in trouble. And that coaching staff better do something to get those guys focused on what's ahead. You just can't let it happen.
You can't. 24-hour rule. You deal with it for 24 hours and you move on from it, good or bad. Once that game plan comes in for the next team, you got to move on. Everybody kind of got to have a cornerback mentality. Put it in the rear view and you move on. But I will say, this is gonna be a Heisman Trophy type game. If Bryce Young can play, Hendon Hooker is one of the best quarterbacks in the country, just like a C.J. Stroud, just like a Caleb Williams. This kid is one of the best out there. And I think the thing about it is what he's doing is showing why. Listen. When you leave the ACC and you come over to the SEC, right, you see what it does for your career. He started since game 3 of 2021, and look at how well he plays. That LSU game wasn't even the game. I don't know what got into Tennessee, but that's Coach Heupel telling Coach Brian Kelly, while I respect what you did at Notre Dame, this is a different ball game. Like, I know you the all-time winning coach Notre Dame, and I know you at LSU, but man, I'm the only coach I can remember in the last 10 years. I wanted to be the Tennessee head coach. That says something when they couldn't get people to be the head coach of Tennessee. Now you got the coach, you got the player, you got the scheme. But if you can't beat them boys from Tuscaloosa, Rob, it's not that your season is over. It's what it does to you mentally. It's like, dude, I thought this was a squad. Well, all I'm saying is this. People thought that Ewers kid coming from Ohio State back down to Texas, what if he plays the whole game against Alabama? Alabama may have a loss. You see what he did against Oklahoma. Get you a quarterback with the right head coach in the scheme, you're going to be very, very hard to beat.
Well, the whole focus of the college football world will be on Knoxville this weekend, all week long leading up to the game. ESPN Game Day will be there. SEC Nation, CBS, it's the national, college SEC game of the week. Brad Nessler, Gary Danielson, everybody will be there. Still got to play that game. Kind of get us inside the heads. I know, you're a Gator, but we have you on here talking about Gators, but also SEC, college, pro, because you've got tremendous insight, huge library of memories. So let's get inside your head. You're Tennessee this week. You're Alabama this week after their performance, getting the win. Because I personally think when you win those close games like Alabama just did, especially with a backup quarterback. And a side note, I cannot remember a weekend. And sorry we lost Jimmy. He was having some issues with his connection. He's up in Knoxville. Probably so many people texting and on social media talking about the Tennessee-Alabama game. He can't get any bandwidth. But anyway, we're heading up there to Mark Ham, Rocky Top Tennessee Tailgate Report. Audrey's cousin Mark, we're going to be staying. He's got 10 season tickets, so we're going to the Tennessee-Alabama game with him. But I think about this. You don't want things to be too big. I had this game, but I can't remember when, KJ Jefferson was not available for Arkansas. They went to Mississippi State and got beat 40-17. Will Levis not available. Bryce Young not available. Max Johnson broke his hand, and A&M went with the guy that he had beaten out for the job, Haynes King, and they go down to the last play, which one of the worst play calls I've seen, 2 yards this side of the goal line there at the end. I would have tried to run it up the middle, but I ain't a coach. But let's talk about that build up this week, starting with how Tennessee's likely approaching this matchup.
Tennessee understands that this is the biggest game of the year because it's Alabama. It's the current game. But if you are a player, you're saying, listen, fellas, breathe. Like a lot of time with a coach, just take a deep breath. You've earned this distinction, meaning this was going to be a big game because of who it is, Tennessee, Alabama. But because both of them are undefeated, because unless Bryce Young plays, Alabama's coming in with the better quarterback. They might not be coming in with the better team. And, Rob, this is why you love college football. All the wrongs that has happened with Tennessee, Alabama goes out the window if they win this game. If you don't believe me, 2019 LSU was the first time in like 7-8 years LSU had beat Alabama with Joe Burrow. You think any LSU fan cared? Nope, because you get some get back, and that's one of the greatest teams we ever seen. Tennessee is a crazy type school. You can't win it with your greatest quarterback, right? And Peyton Manning. Like you can't win it with him. T. Martin comes in and you win the freaking thing. Like that's Tennessee for you, right? So for me, yes. Well, once again, I'm a fan of college football players first. So while I'm not a fan of Tennessee, I'm a fan of Hendon Hooker. I want this young man because I know what he does for every mobile quarterback that's coming out. You know why everybody want guys that can do it with their arms? And they because a guy like that, hey, man, he can run, he can throw. And I think the thing is, Alabama, they're not going to go away. So if you get up by 10, down by 10, can you deal with what Alabama brings to the table mentally? And I think they're ready for it. I'm looking forward to this game. I mean, got a bunch of friends in the industry, Ramon Foster and, guys I played against at Tennessee or when I was with the Titans and Troy Fleming, and they talking trash right now because their team is good. Tennessee used to be competing for the best team in the state against Vanderbilt. How far they've come in such a short period of time because they got the right head coach. But you know how it is, Rob. You know who's used to hype? Alabama. You know who's used to game day? Alabama. They've seen it up, man. We do this every week, man. Will Anderson, he wears number 31, and you better block him because he will wreck the entire game if you don't. I think it's going to come down to 4 quarters, but Nick Saban will look over Josh Heupel and say, if you can beat me, prove it. I'm not saying you can't beat me, but the only way you really beat Alabama, you got to have a Heisman at quarterback or a Heisman caliber quarterback. Look at how many times Alabama loses. Either it's a really, really good team when you got a Johnny Manziel on the other side or a Tim Tebow on the other side. Regular quarterbacks don't beat Alabama. Sorry. If you're a good quarterback, you can't beat Alabama.
Yeah. Yeah. So. I agree with you. And I think you're right. Alabama is so used to this. Tennessee, this group of guys, Tennessee fans historically, yeah, they're used to this hype, but not these players. The spotlight's on. Now, Tennessee looks at it and says, okay, Florida had won 16 of the last 17. But when Tennessee won a couple of weeks ago up in Knoxville, that's all that mattered. You go back in the 15 years before Nick Saban became the head coach at Alabama, Tennessee won 10, lost 4, tied 1. That was the 93 tie when David Palmer was playing for Alabama. So since then, Tennessee's 0-15. Again, if Tennessee can somehow pull off a win Saturday, it ain't going to matter. Nobody's going to care about those 15 losses.
No.
It's about what happened today. So I look at it and I think about these big matchups. It's not about the matchups. It's how you match up on game day, isn't it?
Absolutely. I mean, the great Herm Edwards said that the best is, man, it's not who you play, it's how you play when you play. How did you play on that day? And that's really what it is. Football is, I have to win my individual matchups and I have to help the team collectively. When the moment is the biggest, did my talent rise to the occasion? The greatest players, you don't have to ask who they are, no matter when you watch them play. You're not going to say, well, where is it? Will Anderson, you're going to know he's there. Hendon Hooker, you're going to have to be Superman. There are going to be plays to where only you can make them. Your improvising is going to be the way. And, hey, man, get the ice ready for Sunday morning. I'd rather sit in the ice tub, all this. Oh, my God. There ain't gonna be no hanging out, mama. Listen, I ain't going out to eat after this game. I'm going home. I am hurting because if you hanging out, chilling, having fun, what they do listen, all I know is this. If the cigars get broken out, I don't know if Tennessee do it, but I know Alabama do it. If they got the cigars, I mean, it was a good day. But if every former Alabama Crimson Tide, they're going to be watching this game. Because if Tennessee wins, the guys in the NFL are going to be saying, whoa, we lost to Tennessee. Because that's not something they've ever seen. But I think this is going to give them the best shot. And I guarantee every former Tennessee Vol, either they're going to be in the building or they definitely going to be watching because I think they got the quarterback that can do it.
Yeah. Hendon Hooker is a guy, he's from Greensboro, North Carolina, started out at Virginia Tech, transferred. He's already got his degree. He's working on a master's, very strong in his Christian faith. I'm impressed with him, man. This guy is he's a leader on that team. And you hear again the term leadership used over and over. It's thrown around by a lot of people rather loosely. I don't think they understand what it means. I think a leader is when everything around you is falling apart. He's the calm one going, we got this, guys. We got it. We're going to do it. Because in your head, junk in, junk out. Positive in, positive out. Ben, would you agree?
Absolutely. Lock the door. Leaders see when nobody else can see.
Lock that door.
At the end of the day, when they get in here, hey, lock the door and break the latch. Why? That way we surrounded. That's them right there. Listen, look at them and say, listen, this is how I look. Look at them face to face, get as close as you can to their face, and say, forget everything you heard about me before. I don't care nothing about that. I can't. That's in the history books. Yeah. But in the present, I'm gonna show you that I can do this because no matter what Tennessee is saying, hey man, I didn't go to Tennessee because I couldn't go to Alabama. No, I chose Tennessee. I could have went over there with y'all, but I want to beat y'all. That's that Damian Lillard thing. Why won't Damian Lillard lead Portland? Because I want to win with Portland. Yeah. I want to win here. I don't need a super team. So, and think about that. The state of Tennessee, sorry, Memphis, sorry, Vanderbilt, sorry, Middle Tennessee State, sorry, Austin P. You need UT to be the best team in the state. You just do. It does it for the whole, everybody's better. So that creamsicle orange is going to be ready to go. And I'm telling you, Hendon Hooker plays up to his ability. Doesn't mean they're going to win it, Rob, but it's going to be hard to beat him if that young man is on his A game.
Yeah, and that's the mental part of it. And again, I love hearing what you're saying. Lock that door, man. We're going to you hear about players-only meetings. And again, you do that in work. But you go back to the reason why we all love sports so much is the great Eddie Robinson, long time, nearly 50-year head coach down at Grambling. He said it best. He said, football teaches the lessons of life. You get knocked on your but you get back up. When you quit getting back up, you're done. And you carry that the lessons, and he had over 200 young men that he coached at Grambling that went on and played in the NFL. Over 200. I mean, that's amazing. But it's all it's just a smaller scale. But every game, every Saturday, what you see going on, the 100 yards, 60 yards across, that's just a picture of life. And the fans, I say to people that gripe, and you see the fans that'll sit there with their arms folded with a scowl on their face when something goes wrong. Could you imagine, Ben, having a teammate in the huddle who folded his arms and had a pout face? And I honestly believe these people, and look, I hate losing, but you know what? You better love winning more than you hate losing. You better be willing to do whatever it takes. But a lot of fans, they want to rip and criticize and tear their teams apart. And I'm like, let me tell you something. When things aren't going well, that's when you've got, I'm concerned that I'm not hearing the outrage and the anger from the Auburn fans after getting beat 42 to 10 by Georgia, because apathy and not, being angry, that's what concerns an athletic director. Auburn doesn't even have one. They need one. I hope it's John Hartwell. You got to have the right AD come in there, hire the right coach, but apathy is what will take you out. And as a player, we're about to go to a break real quick. A lot of LSU fans were pouring out in the second half. What did that do to you as a player when you were playing for the Gators? I'm not even talking about in the pros, specifically your days as a Florida Gator.
It's disheartening, but it also lets you know is you get rid of the front runners, unlock the door for them. Okay, fine. You don't want to stay because anybody can be that. Man, as my coach say, football ain't nothing but a relationship. You think people leave when relationships are good? Ain't nobody leaving. They leave when it gets rocky. That's when they want to get out. But isn't a relationship when it gets rocky? So my coach say, hey, being you a sailor, yeah, only take your boat out when everybody's bringing their boat in. When everybody's coming in because the storm is coming, that's when you go out. Because guess what? Somebody needs rescuing out there, man. And I think people don't understand football is rough. If you want to win, you don't want to win more than me, I do it. It's killing me. It just hurts you. It's killing me because this is my livelihood. So I get it. You feel as though I let you down because I dropped the pass. Well, that's my coach to say. You know how he tried to catch the pass because he stuck his hands up.
Yeah.
Now, if I'm just running and the ball hit me in my chest, well, get him off the field. But I'm telling y'all, as much as y'all want to win, we at practice, we preparing, we doing it. And sometimes you come
hold those thoughts because you're right. Hold those thoughts. We're going to come back. We got one more segment with Ben Troupe today on Monday after this quick commercial break.
Red River Ford and Toyota, located in Wynne, Arkansas. If you're in the market for a new or used car, truck, or SUV, call, go online, or drop by and see them. Located 45 minutes from Memphis, go off the 4-city exit on I-40 and go north about 15 minutes on Highway 1. Easy to work with and still believe in customer service. If you live out of town, they will deliver your vehicle to you. RedRiverFordToyota.com. Just see what they can do.
Strengthen your seed zone this spring with quality tillage equipment from House Industries. Located in Cherry Valley, Arkansas, House Industries specializes in manufacturing superior equipment that will minimize your downtime and keep you working in the field. To ensure the highest quality control, all design, fabrication, and testing takes place in a 99,000 square foot manufacturing facility located right here in the heart of the Delta. Locate your nearest House equipment dealer online at houseindustriesinc.com.
House Industries, breaking ground.
Sidelines with Rob Browne. Talk sporty to me.
Rob Browne with you here on this Monday. Sidelines, broadcasting live from Red River Ford Toyota in Wynne, Arkansas. They're open Monday through Saturday, 9. America, and reforest Mississippi. Plant trees wherever you are. It enhances the value and makes life good for you, the birds, the bees, and everything in between. All right, Ben Troupe, love what you said. I just, these are observations and things that I see in a game, fans leaving at the end of the third quarter. Why go? Why would you go through all that effort? If you expect the team to play a full 60, you got to stay a full 60. But when things get bad, fans just, they walk away. But I question, would you ever do that to your own kids? If you call your school, the Gator family, the Auburn family, the Georgia family, LSU family, don't do that. I mean, and I'll tell you something. Recruits, it's not like the guys you have on campus when you're bringing them in have never lost a game, Ben. You know that. They're looking at the way the crowd reacts. They're looking at the atmosphere. They're looking at everything. And I'm telling you, if you got a struggling program and you're walking out of the stadium and you're booing or whatever, boy, just watch what that does to your recruiting. You better be careful what you ask for, because you might just get it. I know Auburn fans are frustrated. I'm an Auburn grad beyond belief. Better days are ahead. It's always darkest before dawn. Ben, let's switch, and I want to ask you about Mississippi State. That's a team, Mike Leach in year 3. Will Rogers, this guy's breaking all kinds of records as a quarterback. But they've got a good running game, good defense. This is a different Mike Leach team. What's their ceiling from your view?
They got it. I mean, I know that Egg Bowl gonna have something to say about it, but that second or third slot in the SEC West is wide open. Ole Miss is undefeated. Mississippi State, I think, has one loss. They could be as good as they want to because they buying into what Mike Leach is selling. Everybody thought that the air raid in the SEC West wasn't going to work, but you got to have guys that buy in. Mike Leach, he's a weird one now. He's going to give you some of the best sound bites you're ever going to hear, but when his offense is clicking, oh my good, because they scored bunches. They scored real fast. They're the Tennessee version of the West. They want to go fast. They want to score a bunch. They want to be wide open. And you mentioned, I mean, Will Rogers is one of the best in the country. I'm a fan of Mike Leach, man. I never could follow what he's saying. His publicist earns every cent when it comes to dealing with him. But when you buy into what the coach is selling, it's going to be hard to beat, because sometimes it's just the belief. It's the buy-in. It's, hey, man, just go out there and execute what we say we're doing. Everybody has to play within the confines of the offensive scheme that's given to them. But I'm putting you in a position to win games, because when it's working, it's working. And when it doesn't, go back to it's always the execution. You said it. Texas A&M had a chance to beat Alabama. You got to call one play. That's the best play you got to call. That's the best one. That's not putting the players in position to win games.
Yeah, and I looked at that game, and I saw the last play call, and I would have run it. I mean, but it was out in the flat, 2 yards from the goal line. So that was tough. Now on this Mississippi State, Mike Leach, he does say some weird stuff, but I think he's getting more comfortable being in the SEC, much more comfortable. And they've got big games left. They still got Auburn. Well, they've got them at home. They've got Alabama. There's a lot of big ones left to play. And I look around at Arkansas. They start off 3-0, and now they're on a 3-game losing streak. And how many times did we hear we heard people saying about KJ Jefferson, hey, don't so much. Don't be putting the ball out there because it's dangerous to be doing that. And you're going to get hurt running that much. He goes out and gets hurt and can't play in the game at Starkville this past Saturday, and Arkansas gets beat 40-17, and you don't have a real backup. I mean, he wasn't even. It was brutal, and I'm telling you, I look around at college football. Like we said, teams, you're lucky if you have a quality backup.
Just wrap it up.
And if you have a quality backup, that's That is, you're among the very few schools that can say such things. Okay. All right. Anyway, we're going to wrap it up now. Thank you, Ben Troupe, so much. ESPN Coastal over in Savannah. Check him out. His Uncommon and Unfinished, his book that he just wrote. Great show. Jimmy Hyams, Jimmy Hodge, Tommy Kane over in Atlanta. Sidelines be with you again tomorrow, as we are every Monday through Saturday, 6 days a week, 2 hours each day. Check us out, 680thefan.com, the podcast park in Atlanta. Kicks 96.3, Alexander City, Lake Martin, Radio Alabama Group, and www.sidelines.live. Most often, we see the face of Christ in the least among us. Go out and help somebody with the expectation of getting nothing in return. And remember, we live in the greatest country in the history of the world. Go out and celebrate. Happy Columbus Day. We're out of here. We'll see you tomorrow.